I want to start with the comments I got last night about your work.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I had so much feedback. And then I had people debating on who everybody was. And then I had it, well, a little bit about process, but more, I would say, about impact. And I think that was something that was kind of carried throughout the night, right?
Yeah.
I love what she's doing. I love the historical women. I like the colors. It was very much about impact, and every once in a while you get a little process question, and to me that really spoke volumes as to how people are viewing your work.
Yeah.
So they're viewing it, they have feelings about it. It's not, I'm not getting the, well, I could do that at home, or I wonder how they do it. Like, it was less about process and more about the emotional impact. I thought that was something that was very nice, feels good.
And that's really what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's really like I find these images, these archival images, right, that resonate emotionally for me, that feel psychologically alive.
What, when you want something to resonate with you, what does that mean to you? Like specifically, like, what about this? Like, how did you?
There's something about her that feels very present. So this photograph was taken, I think it was taken about 1910, I want to say. So this is over 100 years. And most of the time and obviously it was black and white.
Yeah.
Most of the time when we look at photographs, they're documents. They search to document history. My father was a historian. So I grew up, among photographs, among, mostly actually ancient artifacts. History was always very present, but it wasn't really alive. It was kind of like living in a mausoleum, right? So when I'm going through these photographs, which I can find through the Library of Congress, or New York Public Library, I'm looking for something where there's this spark of recognition, right? As if they're still alive, as if they're kind of reaching out to almost like collaborate with me, right? From the page. It's hard to explain. And I understand that so much of that is personal, right? Because when something resonates with you, it's resonating with part of your experience, part of your psyche, right?
I think though that it feels very personal and individual because it is, but there's also an entire segment of the population that will have the same feelings.
Yeah.
And so to be able to grab something that, somebody else maybe hadn't thought about or articulated yet is now it's all brought to the front by, your visual representation.
Yeah.
It's a pretty, it always feels good, as an artist, as a curator, it always feels good to bring in work that's going to be received well. It's emotional. They want to talk about it. It's not just about the application. It's what the viewer feels, and they can spend time with it. So it was we had a lot of folks. I mean, and then everyone's guessing who they are. I'm like, I don't have all the names. I'm sorry, I don't know where they live. But it's not.
But she does.
Yeah, she does. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I would say, viewing your work online versus viewing your work in person is also so much different. Everything gets flattened out, now in a world where everything could be, digitally created or enhanced. You don't realize, the analog process that it takes to get here is also part, of the impact of the work.
Yeah.
How long does it take you to do something like that?
I mean, it's a process that happens over weeks, because it's done in layers, kind of, like intellectually, right? And then also quite literally. So the photograph will go through multiple kind of iterations digitally before I'm happy with it. Then I will print it out. I've got a pigment printer. And then I'll spend times working on different drafts, kind of applying additional layers of paint to it. Then at the same time, I'm doing image transfer with rice paper. I love working with rice paper, right? It gives this like transparent kind of effect, but there's also texture to it, right? And I love when it overlaps also. So you have this this background almost, it reminds me a little bit. Do you remember those globes that they used to have that weren't perfectly smooth? So you could actually feel the ridges of mountains.
Oh, the topographic. Yeah, those are cool.
Work, you know, it's almost like they feel like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I made her over a course of like three weeks, but it's not like I worked, 40 hours a week each time with her. But the images really, as I'm making them, they kind of they feel like this active collaboration, right? Because I'm spending so much time with this figure that I'm psychologically drawn to, right? And then as I'm doing things, I try to use a very bright palette, and I'm aware that some of the pigments that I may choose to use may not have even really been developed.
Right.
Like I love using this really bright fluorescent pink, for example, in one of my pieces that's actually a photograph from Ellis Island. It looks like she's coming out of this fire almost, right? She's got this bright pink cloth on her head, right? I mean, that's a very contemporary color, right?
It triggered me when you were kind of talking about it a little bit. That is the one thing I noticed about your work. It is very feminine.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself just staying in that realm? Have you been thinking about moving into any manly or masculine figures, or is this kind of your your spot right now?
So far I've done only female figures, but I actually have images of men saved. And it really, when I go through and I save images, it's not based on gender, it's based on connection. Right. So there have been some images of men that I really connect to.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they also tend to be, there's a vulnerability that I see. Right. And I think that's part of what draws me to the photograph. A lot of the images of men seem posed. Right. So the images that I'm looking for, so she's kind of an exception, right? So she was posing for a journalist when this was taken. A lot of the images lately that I've been looking at were actually from the Farm Securities Administration.
Okay.
Right. So they had, during the times of Depression, they had actually commissioned photographers to go out and document rural poverty. Right. And it's interesting because a lot of the photographs that have men in them, the men look like they're posing, right? And so they're representing strength and endurance, right? They're trying to project this.
Yeah.
While the women look tired. Right?
Yeah.
The women almost look more honest.
Yeah.
In these pictures.
Yeah.
So I think I connect with them a little bit differently.
Okay.
But there were a few photographs of men that they seemed more transparent psychologically to me. So I saved those and I intend on working with those.
Right.
But I think that my identity as a feminist definitely does my work.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'm looking at catalogs and I'm watching, I'm seeing what's happening. So I was just curious, is this where you're staying? Do you have, every artist is going to grow and branch eventually. Yeah. So, but yeah, I was just so curious.
Far it's been women.
Yeah.
And I've only done one child, and that child is in the show.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But I have several pictures of children that I plan on working with.
How and a little bit into your background, because it is very related. So we've talked briefly, but if you don't mind, just in a nutshell, also, what do you do as your day job?
Yes,
your artist job.
So I work with clients struggling with addiction or mental health. So I'm a physician. And there's actually a lot of overlap between my artistic practice and my clinical practice, because in both, I'm working with identity, right? With this kind of access of people's self-identity, the identities that have been assigned to them, by others,
right?
Both in an intimate sense, by their families, right, where their addiction defines them, their mental illness defines them. Yeah. Also in a cultural sense, the newspaper articles that were written about her during her lifetime, it was very much, the pretty woman who leads an army,
right?
Right.
Yeah.
and really how that's something that
we're on Main Street. It's Main Street.
Really how these identities are something that you can take authorship of, right, and can be recreated.
Yeah, I also think it's that people are going to feel a certain way about you no matter what.
Yeah.
Artist, historical figure, like everybody is going to be on the outside looking in. And so it is your responsibility to put out into the world hopefully how you want to be viewed, or, your work, whether it's through your work or your practice, or even just how you interact with the public when you're out, you know, opening a door or saying, please, like, you can map out your own self, but people are still going to view you however they want.
They are, and so many people feel disenfranchised, though.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, and a lot of the people that I choose, she's certainly an exception, but a lot of the photographs that I choose are people who are marginalized, right, and have been disenfranchised.
I guess what I'm saying is, if you know who you are, like, you can't help how other people are going to be viewing you. Right. I think for what you do with as a practice, obviously we were talking about trauma and years of, issues, like, that's not, I don't mean like wake up and have a new day. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I mean, like, it's just a very power. Like, yes, empowering maybe that's what I'm trying to get at. Yes. Right. And I think that is something, I feel like, because when we talked before, I feel like that does translate into the work. Like, yes, exactly. Like, it's like you're almost putting them on, you're giving them the platform that they didn't have initially. Yes. That's what I was trying to say. Like, so, exactly. It does come through with the colors. It comes through with the compositions. It comes through, with the presentation as a whole, right? So I feel like you're sort of, obviously you don't know exactly how they felt. You weren't there, but it is just an entirely new light to be able to view these people in, and I feel like I do feel like that relates to your profession, because you are, you're trying to show these people or help these people understand, like, it's not how somebody has painted you, it is how you can present yourself as well. Like, you can, you can map this out.
There's really, one of the things that I've talked about is how I use color almost to give a sense of agency, right, to the figures in my portraits. I
mean, I feel like that might be the Latin flavor as well. That could be, yes, it's immediately what I'm drawn to. Yeah. Do you think that because I don't feel that you're anywhere in your work are you identifying with that side, but do you feel like that side has influenced you?
The Latin side. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, so I'm half Colombian. And I grew up really kind of intellectually nursing on magic realism.
Okay.
Right.
I'm gonna have to expand here.
So, like my I was very precocious, as a child, and read very early, so I was reading Marquez. My favorite short story ever is A Very Old Man with Enormous Wings. Okay. Which is this like wonderful short story by Gabriel Garcia Marquez of this, this man with enormous wings who kind of lands in this village, and he's kind of ragged and he's talking gibberish, and, and the implication is that he's an angel, but, people don't really know what to do with him. So they put him in the chicken coop. And, the people in the town come and, point at him, and the author has this wonderful way of blending like imagery and themes and and a sense of magic and wonder. Okay. That just kind of becomes part of the fabric of the world that his characters live in. Okay. Right. And I think that is very much a cultural thing, and something that, I lived, my parents separated when I was very, very young. So, I spent a lot of time with my mother, and I got that from her. Right. And reading Isabel Allende, who is Chilean, but also very much, in this type of author, this type of theme. Yeah. So, I think there's that kind of flavor to my art as well.
Yeah.
Like this kind of otherworldliness in a sense, right? And then I also use a lot of iconography, right? And I think part of that is because, you know, I actually ended up studying theology in school. I went to Oxford for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. I was just, you know, really fascinated by it. You know, I'm fascinated by anthropology, Joseph Campbell, Power of Myth, you know, all of those.
Yeah, I mean, there's
those things.
I think it is an important part to what you're doing specifically, but it's also an important part to understand, you know, how did we get here? How, you know, like what road are we on? Where are we going? You know, so you can, and you can really look back, and there's some safe assumptions that can be made if we keep going in a, you know, specific trajectory the way we are. So, you know, I think understanding your history is incredibly important. I do think that I love that you're not, you know, you don't just have one identity. You definitely have, like, I don't know, you got a lot of things happening in the background that all kind of can come together, you know, to create something really pretty, beautiful to look at. Like, it is very striking, you know, and it's something that, again, compliments all night long. It was, you know, everybody loved to see it, and everyone's like, I think I know her. I think I've seen her before. You know, how is this? And then we had debates of, you know, she was in the Mexican Revolution, she was in the Colombian Revolution, and I'm just like, we should probably even talk to the artist and we can get a little bit more. So I'm always trying to, like, you know, move them in the direction. But it was just having people be able to talk about it was really exciting. It was lovely to have it in the gallery. You know, obviously we're going to be together for a little while, and so I wanted to know what else you're working on now. I know you got a solo show going on.
Solo show coming out.
Yeah. And so what's that collection like for your solo?
So those are all women. And so there are about 13 pieces. They're all larger pieces. So the average is about 30 by 40. And most of them are very empowered women. And actually, it's interesting because it includes a couple series. So there's one series that I did, which is from Ellis Island. So these are photographs that were taken between 1899 and like 1905, 1910, right? These are women who were in the detention center, which is much different than what we think of the detention center right now. Yeah. But their photographs were taken as part of an ethnographic study. You know, this is also a time of eugenics, right? So their identities were not recorded, but their ethnicities were, so that, you know, we knew what somebody from Lapland looked like, which is now, you know, Finland, essentially. It includes women from mugshots. Actually,
getting in trouble for probably nothing.
There's this marvelous, I think it might be my favorite piece. There's this marvelous piece of a woman named Mary Snow. And it was a mugshot from, I believe it was, I want to say 1899. And so fun fact, right? So Fort Leavenworth Prison actually digitized their prison records.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're ever bored, you can go online and you can look at their prison records from the late 1800s.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would just be cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, there, you know, the internet has a world of things to look at. And so I found her mugshot on this, you know, the front and profile. And she was Native American. And it's interesting because she had been arrested with a woman, but I don't believe the woman served time.
Oh, okay.
But she did. Surprise. Yeah. And she was released in, I think it was 1905, and I found her release photos, mugshot, and she looked quite reformed. Yeah, and I hid her release photo. I did an image transfer on rice paper, of course, and I hid it in the picture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you can find it.
Yeah, now I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm excited. And you're in North Carolina, and is that where the solo specifically is? Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then within your community, I am curious, like how are you received there versus here? Like what do you think the difference is?
I think I'm still figuring actually, because I haven't really,
I mean, you
been
have
here long enough.
No, I just mean like you have a solo where you're at, so clearly people have gravitated to it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I mean, it's interesting. I always, having moved several places myself and living in different areas, it's always an adjustment to see what the communities are going to be like. And am I really do I fit in, or do I just try to blend? Like, I'm not sure, you have to feel it out for a little while. But if you have a solo going on, clearly your work is well received.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful space.
Yeah.
So I was very honored to be selected. I mean, it's a 3-month show.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
it really is.
So it's going to be opening up. We're actually installing April 4th. So when I return back to North Carolina, I'm basically going to be spending my time varnishing because it was too cold to varnish in our garage.
Yeah.
For a long time. So there's going to be a lot of that. And then adding some details, but I'm really, really excited about these pieces.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of continuity between them. I mean, my style is very recognizable.
It is.
So there's a maturity there, but there's also, you see a transition a little bit in the colors. Right. My last couple pieces, I really work with this chartreuse color, which I love. Right. And they're, I have a 48 by 48 and a 48 by 36. And in both of those, it's the first time I had done it, actually. In both of those, I actually manipulated the photographs by duplicating them.
Okay.
Yeah. And so there's kind of a little bit of a different exploration there as far as like the psyche of the individual, instead of a portrait, like a traditional portrait with just, one photograph.
Sure. There.
Yeah. So I'm excited about those. And one of them is really, you've got this woman who is actually a teenager. And she is kind of standing back to back against herself. And there's this rope that's wound around herself, right? And she's holding, each version of herself is holding the edge of the rope. And it's called Becoming and Yet, right? And it's kind of about this tension, right? As we go through this phase of becoming, moving from adolescence to becoming a woman. And the versions of her are different colors, right?
Frida of you.
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it's
very
right. Yeah, it's very. But by the way, in the most complimentary way.
Yeah,
I mean, because you can't help where your influences come from, And so, but it feels. I like it. I mean, I think that everyone, you're going to experiment with your art, or whatever. But I think that if you're into, especially like women artists and stuff, I'm like, it's going to come out.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm excited to see that one. That sounds very interesting. I like
That's really neat.
I think that so far we've had you in our downtown LA spot, and then now here in our flagship in Ventura. And I mean, so far, very, very, warm reception. And I feel like it's just going to be a matter of people seeing it and getting to know you as an artist, and then feeling, like everybody, it's very hard. I mean, I've told you I've worked with a few artists for a number of years, and people expect to see them, and then they're very excited to see what's happening next, So I think that we've already had such positive feedback on it that as we get more of your works and people are getting more and more familiar, I think it's going to be, so far I think it'll be well received. And we have it's a good community. People are interested in the history and they want to be able to talk about their work, and you have kind of all of those elements together, and it looks good. It's not just the story, it has a visual impact as well. But it's nice to have something to discuss about it. Kind of a little history on it as well.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
Oh, well, thank you. I like working with you too. And then I remember, because you couldn't come to the show in LA, but then you came to visit. Yeah. And I remember you came on, I don't know, the storm of the century downtown.
It was raining like the one weekend.
It never rains. And then Kendra she's like, do you want to open today? Like nobody is going to be there. And I said, no, we have one person that's coming today. You're going to have to go and be there. And so she thought you were lovely as well. It was very nice. Yeah. She was, that space is so much different, obviously, but it's my small but mighty space. Downtown is very expensive and I wanted to be there and I found a spot and it ended up working. But we have such a great, like, it's just where it sits and all of the residents. And then, it's on our little map for our art walk. So it really is a space that, going on my 7th year there,
Wow.
So yeah, it works, it's working. But it's obviously a different, crowd, but I do think that people, I think in general, Southern California and people are very open to different art. You can kind of get away. I can get away with a lot. I can put a lot of different stuff out and it's never just one thing. I don't have to just cater to one type of artwork. So it's fun to be able to experiment. But yeah, I think it was well received there. I think we did. You always want to sell out every show, which unfortunately isn't possible, but you do your best and then you just take what you can and hopefully build it better, the next time. So, but I'm happy to have you. Like, it wasn't, as soon as you get to see the artwork in person, it's always a very exciting moment because you think you have what you might want in mind, and then you just kind of pray if you haven't seen it, like, I hope it shows up and it's nice, but it's impeccably done. It's beautiful. Like the presentation is good, because the application itself, it's collage, it's assemblage. It can be rough, you don't know what you're gonna get, but you do a really good job putting everything together and making it, very cohesive. It looks nice. It presents well, and people they're responding positively. They like it.
That's
so it's good. It was good feedback, and I'm just hoping it'll be a good show next couple months. And so, I'm like, I really want to go see the solo in North Carolina. I don't know if we can. He's coming out to visit. Maybe we can take a road trip. I don't know. It would be nice.
It's going to be really nice. The space is beautiful.
Yeah,
the space that it's in is really gorgeous.
You have to have a good backdrop, and it has to be welcoming. So I'm glad.
Yeah. And I'll take video.
Of course. Yeah.
But some of the pieces have like beautiful texture. There's one piece that's called the Bolivian Madonna, or just Bolivian Madonna. And she is a picture of, an indigenous woman from Bolivia. And she had this tunic on it was a black and white photo, but it was probably a white tunic or a very, very pale tunic. But I made it red. And I used, iconography kind of imagery. So she's got like a gold halo, but at any rate, the cool thing, there are many cool things about the image. Cool. It's all cool. And I often use kind of blue, pale teal tones for skin. I went with a darker blue here, but I love using those tones for skin. There's something about that. So I gave her a kind of pale teal tone for skin, and then I made her tunic red, and I used red embroidery thread on top of that, so it's very textural, right? And it was just, you can even touch it, right? And I kind of, used multiple layers of thread and gel medium, and it just kind of comes out at you.
Yeah, I like things that are, it's, especially for what you're doing, it almost kind of has to have some texture, right? Like you want to build upon it and you want it to come out a little bit. I love that. It's not 3D, it's not necessarily wall sculpture, but it just has like a little bit of a, I don't know how to explain it, but like it just has a little extra effect that's maybe unexpected when, you first see an image, right? And it has something a little extra. I really like that. It's a nice surprise. A little art surprise for you. Yeah, I'm excited for the next year. I think it's going to be really good. I was curious on your thoughts only because I kind of been asking everybody about it, and I'm a little obsessed with it. About the AI art, and and I did have a comment when somebody said they saw the picture and they just thought, oh, it's gonna be like it's an AI image, and I was just like, oh wow, like you're just very dismissive, And I thought that, and then where I used to think the challenge was, people are gonna think that AI is real art. Now it's the opposite, where people think real art is AI. And I was like, oh wow, I didn't see the reverse coming, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure like how you feel about like,
I mean, I
kind
think
of what's
there are
happening.
some, I think there are some artists that use AI very creatively in animation. That there are a couple artists that I follow on Instagram that do these, really kind of fantastical AI animation type, sequences. But overall, I'm not a fan of AI art. I don't use AI in my art. I guess you can say like altering an image, using like I use the max version of Photoshop,
Right.
that's technically using some AI.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's using a tool, a technological tool. I find, I think it's its own kind of different type of art. I don't want to be dismissive of other people's creative processes.
Yeah.
But it's not really, it's not really my thing.
No, look,
Right.
I think I think just like anything else, it can be a tool for whatever you need it to be. I
Right.
just thought it was an interesting comment last night. Like, oh, I just thought it was AI. And then it was like a weird dismissive, like I said, I didn't see that coming. I thought for sure, I don't know. It was just, it came from the opposite direction. I was like,
that's
oh.
unexpected.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that was odd. I didn't,
Yeah.
show. And then of course they loved it. They're like, oh yeah, it's cool. It's put together, and it was just an opposite thing. But I actually think AI will come and go in the art industry just like NFTs did. I think it's going to come in, it'll roll in, it'll be a tool. People will try to exploit it for whatever it's going to be, and then it'll roll out. And then there'll still be some applications like animation. I mean, I've used it for a number of things. I've taken still work, created a video around it for the purpose of promotion, right? Like, I just want to promote it because I think it's humorous or it's funny, and so that's what I'll do. But I don't, it's 5 seconds. It's not like, and the image I'm using is my image, or it's not like, I don't know how, I think it's a tool. I think it can be fun, but I do think that the art application, the sole AI art application, I think will come and go, just like every iteration has before.
Yeah.
I mean, we had an artist talk years ago after a photo show, and we almost had a little mini fight break out over Photoshop. Between two artists. We had a panel, and one of my photographers I'd worked with forever, very accomplished director in the film industry, and he's analog. I mean, he's carrying he's Ansel Adams with the large format, and he's hiking, and that's the only
got his dark room.
That's it. That is photography, right?
Yeah.
Like, and if you're not using that, then you're not a photographer. Then we had the other guy who was essentially I would call him like a traveling kind of journalist, documentary style, and he absolutely uses, his photos are stunningly beautiful, but he was using Photoshop to turn it up a notch and make it, make it his own as far as art goes. And those two, I mean, and then now Photoshop's just nobody. Like, yeah, I know Photoshop. It's almost like you have to know it just so that you can, do your craft and your, whatever it is. It's just built in. Nobody thinks about it being a negative anymore. It's just built in. Yeah. And so that's why I'm like, first we had the Photoshop debate, then we had the NFT debate. Now we're having the AI debate. I think it's just going to come and it'll go, just like everything else did.
I think so. And it's interesting. I had to learn how to use Pixelmator, which is I think that's the name of the program that I use. I'm very clunky with it. Like, I'm not an expert level, like, at all.
I don't think any of us.
Yeah. I just use like very basic kind of tools, because I was just like, okay, like I want to kind of like cut out this, like, how do I do it? So I'm certainly not sophisticated enough to do this stuff.
It's a tool you learn to use for your benefit. You don't have to. There's people that want to be experts at those things, and they can
like have at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a great time.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say I really appreciate having you. And are you raising your hand for a question?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a question. I thought you were stretching. Nope, this is it. I'm leaving it in there, and all the babbling is all staying in there too. Yeah. Oh, I like it. Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was really wonderful because the most interesting conversation I had happened outside. Actually, it was I was outside, kind of, just to get some air, and there was a couple, and they were looking at this piece in the window, and I was like, "Oh, you want to know anything? I'm actually the artist, And we ended up talking for 10 minutes, um, and it was great. And I love telling her story, right? It's kind of like when I'm able to speak with somebody, and this happened a few times. I talked with, a handful of people. The storytelling aspect to me, like being able to be here in person, it's just it adds this delicious layer for me. I love stories, right? I kind of wish that I could, maybe there'll be some point I could have like a QR code, or something that somebody can scan, right? And here's the story that comes with it, here's your like added bonus. Because I think as somebody who grew up with a love of fiction and grew up, with history all around me, and I think that people get kind of enraptured by that. So I think being here in person and being able to do that was just a really, really special experience. And the space is so beautiful. I mean, it's so gorgeous. And being able to see other artists' work and meet, I met Edgar, one of the photographers who's here. I mean, I felt so welcomed by him, you know. That was lovely.
But you don't want to ask it in the mic so that
I can. You know what I was thinking is closed captions, and then we can just bubble you in. But go ahead.
Okay, one more question. I'm always curious how you, as an artist, how do you initiate interaction or conversation during in general, like you go into a reception thinking, oh, I'm going to ask this question, or how do you actually interact?
Yeah. And this may change over my career, right? But right now, I wait to see if somebody pauses, right? I want to see if there's some initial, I look for the pause or the head tilt, right? Or somebody, saying, hey, come look at this, right? I don't do the human equivalent of, one of those like things outside of a car wash. It's like, hey, come here, you know. Yeah, I'm not good at that. I mean, I haven't tried it yet. So maybe that's highly effective. I don't know. That probably wouldn't go over well. I'm probably not going to do that.
A lot of artists in general,
Mm-hmm.
they seem to either be too shy or they maybe like you said, maybe it's too much.
Yeah.
And there's always a fine line between being too much, being too shy, and but yet you I feel like a lot of artists kind of miss that step.
Yeah.
Relationship building, the interaction, the one-to-one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I feel like a lot of artists that maybe watch this, hopefully, they could maybe get something out of it, like a good little, tidbit.
I will say that I think the majority of sales, not everything is obviously just subjective and depending on situations, but I would say in general, the majority of sales come from establishing the relationship with the artist to the work. Mm-hmm. It's not, if you're buying fine art from a gallery or from an artist, you are investing in that. The artist and their work are essentially one and the same, right? I'm investing in the artist. I'm investing in their ideas. I like the application of the work. And it isn't always like that. There's somebody that just wants something that's going to look good I have a foyer that I'm looking for a piece, and that happens definitely. But when you have people that are really art collectors because they love art and they want things that make them feel something when they walk through their house, or and that's almost always the relationship. The relationship has been established.
Yeah.
They want to know more about the artist. And even if something as simple as, just for example, last night, one conversation came to mind, and they were interested in a piece, and I could tell they loved the piece, and there wasn't much, I didn't have to convince them to buy the artwork. I know that I know they want to buy the artwork, but it was the hesitation is, we really going to buy this? Are we really here to, do this? And so what I like to do is then say, the artist is A, B, C, and D. And I don't know if you know this, but man, they went here, they went to school here, or they went to, and last night was a very specific thing where I talked about their college athlete career. And then, and that was like, no, oh, wow, oh, no way. So it's just, it's putting some sort of, I don't know what the right word is. It's humanizing to a point to try to strike that, relationship, something they can relate to.
Yeah.
And make sure that they know it's not just, it's a real person making something real, and they have their own life that they've experienced, and then this is what's coming out of that at this point. So it's always a connection, I think, with the artist when it's the setting and a one-on-one. People are always going to shop online. It's just, it happens.
What's your recommendation as far as how artists interact at a reception?
At the end of the day, it's whatever you're comfortable with, because if you're a nervous talker and you're not comfortable talking about yourself, you could be really off-putting to somebody. You don't want to do that, right? But if you're very comfortable having a conversation about that work because you're passionate about the history of the work, by all means, step in there and talk about it. That's a relationship. And if somebody's very interested, they'll ask you questions, right? But at the end of the day, it's your comfort level, because some artists are not comfortable talking. So don't do it. You're gonna feel silly. You're gonna look silly. Don't do it. Right? Because it's awkward. You don't want to have it forced. But if you're comfortable, absolutely.
It's also important though to try to learn from others and be open to evolving, to getting better at certain things. But you made a great point. Like, don't overdo it and force yourself to do something you're comfortable with.
And that's my. I don't disagree with you. Yeah, I do think it's important to be able to talk and have a conversation, but that's not everybody's forte. So just like recognizing cues. I mean, well, that's what we do as a gallery. You're so funny.
It's just so important to take little advice like that and just being like, you could apply it in your own way, but if you're watching from a distance, somebody who, like you said, literally pauses for like 2-3 seconds, maybe tilts their head, that's something. That's a subconscious.
I mean, I think that's a little bit more like, I don't want to say sales tactic, but it kind of is. It's just recognizing, okay, this is a time where I probably need to step in and and have a conversation about, because the point, we want to sell artwork. I like talking about artwork, but we want to.
Yeah,
absolutely. Some artists also, they avoid it because they just simply don't want to do it. Some artists do not. That is not the aspect that they want at all. So that's why I'm saying it's comfortability. If you're comfortable talking about your work, absolutely jump in. I think it's important. If you're not comfortable talking, I mean, there's artists, they don't want to come to shows. The artwork has been dropped off. They don't want to see it again or hear about it again. And then we send them their money when it has sold. So some people are very, very hands off because that's where they're at. And other people want to be involved and they're wearing the biggest hat in the room, and that's okay too. It's not, it's really like, and by the way, I'm making fun of myself because I usually wear really big hats. So that's okay. But it's just the point, like, some people are very comfortable being in the spotlight or center of attention and then talking about what they want to talk about. So in my opinion, it's all comfortability, because if it comes off disingenuous or forced, complete turn off, that's it.
I can see that. And sometimes it's, you know, it's like I may not like get to them in time, you know,
Sure.
and now they're rocking somebody, you know, and I don't want to like, you know, chase
run
after.
after
Wait, let me turn you around.
Yeah.
Right.
You missed it.
Right.
Over here.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, and I have somewhat, I'll admit I probably have somewhat of an advantage because I spend, you know, at least 3 days a week working, watching people all day, you know, interaction with people and reading signs. So it may be somewhat, you know, easier for me. You know, I talk to people all day.
Yeah. I mean, again, you just use your tools. There are other people, especially the younger kids. They're so good at social media. They're all blowing up, and you know that's their forte. So you use the tools at what you're good at. You know. And there's a market. I mean, there's a market for everything. You know, as a gallery, I do my best to try to tap into all of those, and then use the resources that I, you know, have. As an artist, it's very personal. It's very, very personal.
Yeah.
You know, it's if I'm selling my own artwork as an artist, it is all conversations. But you have an advantage. I'm very comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not out of that comfort zone. But some people, it's just very hard, or it's very, you know.
Understand that.
I'm not going to start harping on Genji stairs or anything, but some people just don't have the, you know, it's just, you know, that some people just don't do it. But yeah.